Good evening. This board meeting will now come to order at 5:01 p.m. Thank you for attending the Albuquerque Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board meeting today, August 14th. Ms. Brilla, can I get a member roll call, please?
Xander Bolianitz.
Present.
Eduardo Budenaro.
Present.
Aaron Calderon.
Present.
Rowan Weimark.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Brilla. Next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The next order of business is the approval of the agenda. Board members, have we all had a chance to look at the agenda?
Yes.
Any modifications, anything like that? No. All right. Then I make a motion that the agenda to be approved as written. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Budenaro. Ms. Brilla, can I get a member roll call vote, please?
Member Bolianitz.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Member Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimark.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brilla. The next order of business is the review and approval of minutes. Do any board members have any changes or modifications to the minutes? Then I make a motion that the minutes be approved as written. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Member Calderon. Ms. Brilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Member Bolianitz.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Member Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimark.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brilla. Next order of business is public comments. Ms. Brilla, I don't believe we have anything. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. No written public comments were submitted, and there is no one here to speak.
Wonderful, thank you. Great. So then the next order of business is the reports from the city departments. So first up, we have APD Internal Affairs Professional Standards by Commander Nelson. Or no, we don't. Okay. Commander Nelson's not here. Can anyone speak to the room? Nope. Okay. So then we will move on to the Internal Affairs Force Division by Commander Norris.
Good evening. For the month of July of 2025, we actually, well, I'll get to it, but we had a decrease in uses of force from June to July, but I'll get to that. But a little bit different this month as opposed to past months. If you recall, usually our highest uses of force, our top two area commands that usually have the highest uses of force are usually the Southeast and the Valley Area Command. From June to July, that changed, where Southeast, yes, is still our higher numbers of uses of force, but second actually this month was Northeast, and then Southwest actually came in as number 3 with a difference of 2 uses of force for the month. So that was a little bit different than months past. Usually the Valley usually comes in second, just which we've attributed to just not only a lot of the proactive work that goes on down there, but just some of the closing down at bar time and things like that, which oddly enough, we usually don't have a lot of uses of force at bar closing. The department does a really good job of just kind of saturating that area with resources, which has shown to be has proved to be very effective in reducing our uses of force. But there was just a little bit of a difference this month as opposed to the past months that I've reported. As I mentioned earlier, in the month of June, we had 69 uses of force, and in July we had 59, so a decrease of 10. As far as force rates per 1,000 calls for service, for the Southeast Area Command, it was at 2.1, so even though we have more uses of force in the Southeast, they did come in with the lowest force rate per 1,000 calls at 2.1. The second was the Southwest Area Command, which was actually third in the number of uses of force that we had for the month at 2.7 uses of force per 1,000 calls for service, and then the Northeast was at 2.4. As far as force rate per 100 arrests, again, Southeast was actually lower, but it's just kind of talking statistics here, with 2.3 uses of force per 100 arrests. The second the highest was actually Southwest at 4.9. So every 100 arrests have about 5 use of force encounters per 100 arrests. And for the Northeast, it was at 3.4. As far as the demographics of individuals, age range wise, we're still having use of force incidents with individuals. Most use of force incidents with individuals between the ages of 30 and 39. So for July, it was at 22, but closely was age group of 20 to 29, which was about 20. So not much of a difference there. 16% of those uses of force for the month we attributed, or we didn't attribute to it, but there was a behavioral health component involved, and 38% there was alcohol or drugs involved. So 38% of those uses of force for July, there was some component of some sort of intoxicating liquor or narcotic. As far as the types of calls where we're getting in the most uses of force, not much has changed with that. Last month, I believe we had kind of an increase with some of our more violent crimes types of calls, like aggravated assault and battery. Those were only at 3 last month. The most common type of call where we are using force is a call where suspicious persons or activities. So that can either be a dispatch call or an on-site. So in other words, an officer initiates a contact with somebody that they see they want to get out and talk to, that they may see that person is engaging in some sort of suspicious activity that they want to investigate further. Family disputes were at 9, so there was a big disparity, almost twice the number of uses of force for suspicious persons and vehicles than there were with family disputes. Empty hand techniques, empty hand takedowns, those types of things are still the most common uses of force that we engage in. And for our level 1 uses of force, we had 11 total investigations completed. Average days was about 13 and a half. Minimum days of completion was 2. Maximum days of completion was about 26, and those were with granted extensions. As far as level 2 and level 3 uses of force, the completed investigations were at 69. So we completed 69 investigations within the month of July. The average day to completion was 80 days. Minimum was about 58, and the maximum day was 117, which extensions were granted for that particular investigation. Out of the 80 uses of force that we had in the month of July, IAFD only found 2 to be out of policy. So some of the numbers have remained consistent. Some things have changed a little bit, but nothing that raises any eyebrows, so to speak. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Commander Norris.
Sure.
One of the questions that I'm kind of looking at here, and it's kind of caught my eye a few times, and I just wanted to chat about it, is in the Northwest, there are, very low uses of force. I think we had 2 this month, and very, very low, and then also very low, like calls for service or total CAD calls. We have just a little under 5,000, but very low arrests and total use of force cases. Is it just mean that no one's getting into use of forces, or kind of, I'm curious of the statistical differences between the use of force call, or the amount of service calls, and then total arrests and use of force cases, and I just was curious.
A lot of that has to do with just the type of calls that the Northwest gets. Typically, our Northwest Area Command is probably the area command that is probably statistically, I guess, the least violent part of town that we have, or at least where we experience the less violent types of calls. So I think a lot of it has to do with the types of calls that officers are responding to that don't necessarily require or end up in a use of force incident. Same with maybe the type of on-site activity that the officers are engaging in. It's just a part of town where I worked that part of town for close to 2 years, and that's never changed. It's been kind of a part of town where there's not a lot of activity going on, and that kind of requires us, when we're taking people into custody, to end up in a use of force incident.
No, I mean, I like to see low use of forces, but when I see weird trends and outliers, I want to at least call them out. So, board members, any other questions for Commander Norris? Awesome, thank you, Commander. For the next order of business, we are actually going to circle back to the Internal Affairs Professional Standards report by Commander Nelson.
Good evening. Apologies for my tardiness.
Of course, no worries.
Just to give you a rundown, I forget what we did last month. I'll give you the count of their most common violations by SOP violation. So in order of the most frequent is 2-8, our use of force. Our use of on-body recording device policy. Our 1-1, or sorry, let me start over. The 2-8 use of body recording device for a count of 32 violations. Personal code of conduct 1-1 with 23 violations. 2-76 with 15 violations, and that's for court. 2-5, the department vehicle issues, and that's 6 violations. And 3-21 for scheduled and unscheduled leave with 2 violations.
Wonderful, thank you, Commander. Any questions from any of the board members? Nope. No questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course, thank you.
Awesome. The next reports we will hear from is from ACS by Deputy Director Mr. Bustamante.
This is gonna be another one of these days.
It's okay, it's been a long week. Good afternoon, everybody. Of course, always excited to be here. I think rather than repeat a lot of what you heard, calls continue, they're high. Our bilateral split has gone really well. We also are excited that in the next month to 2 months, we'll probably, so keep an eye out, have an announcement on the Southwest Public Safety Center and ribbon cutting, getting our furniture in there and everything, so really excited. And that is that facility off of 98th near Atrisco that will be fire, police, and ACS out there with Commander Barasa. So really excited about that. Summer of Nonviolence continues. We have a pool party at Wilson Park this weekend, including a dunk tank. Hoping that goes well and nobody wants to work out some maybe frustration with us, but that's okay, yeah. So come on out. And really just leading into the fall and continuing, the busy work that we've had. Council's back, of course, and so really keying into that and what should be a dynamic fall. And in addition to that, I am blanking on the last thing I really wanted to highlight, which is, National Night Out. National Night Out was a huge success for us, and I think for everybody. Last week, we, across our department, probably got to like 20, 25 events across the city with over 100 happening. We really got to a lot of areas that we don't always get to, which is exciting for us. And it was, I personally always really enjoy National Night Out, and I know our teams did. So hopefully some other folks got out there and had fun. I know I ran into a couple people here out and about, but we truck along. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Bustamante, I appreciate it.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Next up for the report is the city attorney report by Managing Attorney Lindsay Rosenberg.
Good evening, Board. I have one update for you tonight. It's kind of a joint update, I would argue, with APD Academy, but I wanted to let you all know that APD's MOE training is going on right now, and there is a legal update that's being provided by the DA's office. This is typically an annual part of the training for APD. I'm mentioning it in part because CPOA and CPOAB have made some recommendations related to policy and some of the search and seizure policy, and some new case law that has come through in regards to search and seizure. And so the DA's office is currently training those updates, which I believe was part of the recommendation from CPOA, is that these new changes to law, specifically as to it pertains to inventory procedures, be trained adequately. That is being done right now. So I just wanted to provide that particular update. I will stand for any other questions, though.
Any questions? Nope, thank you so much, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Next report, the city council report by Mr. Sylvan.
Thank you, Chair, Honorable Board. Chris Sylvan, Albuquerque City Council. The update I have for you is at the last City Council meeting this past Monday, OC-25-42, which is the CPOA 2024 July to December semi-annual report that was received by council. It was on the consent agenda, so basically no councilors pulled it off to discuss it. So the director and the deputy director were there just in case there were questions, and there have been in the past, but that's through the hopper now, and it's being filed with the clerk. The other update I have is, and I think I gave this to you last month, but we interviewed 2 applicants for the board. Next week, we should potentially have 2 more applicants that we're interviewing, because we have our monthly meeting where the city council staff and the agency staff meet. So we're going to just meet to interview those folks. And we potentially might have 1 more person. The director got an email late last night that sounds interesting for an applicant. So we should get somebody by, I'm not going to put a date on it, but the interviews will be done next week for sure. And the last update I have is, if you notice I'm sitting kind of away from the microphone, the microphones in the chambers have been updated. We found that out at the city council meeting, so we don't have to lean in as much anymore. So hope the acoustics are better for folks at home and here in the chamber. And I stand for any questions.
Any questions from the board? No, no questions. Thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. Next up is our report from the Community Policing Council, the CPC.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm Martisa Billy, and I'm the Community Policing Council Office Assistant. For our report, the Valley CPC had their meeting, and we hosted the warden from the Metropolitan Detention Center, Kai Smith, and members of the center, and they were speaking about the center rules, staffing, budgeting, and numbers, and the future for the MDC. The Southwest, the university also had the staff from the MDC, and they also spoke about their center rules, their staffing, budgeting numbers, and the future for the MDC. The Foothills CPC, they hosted the animal welfare with Director Carolyn Ortega and her staff, talking about local changes in laws concerning animals. The Northeast Council, they had the Emergency Communications Director, Jessica Solis, speaking about the 911-242 COPS process, and they were also joined by the City Councilor, Brooke Basson. And CPC did attend the summer neighborhood event in Anderson Mesa Park, and we handed out brochures to the public at the West Side neighborhood by Coors and Rio Bravo. We also had the fourth youth CPC meeting, and there we had the subject of interviewing with an area commander. We hosted with Ray Del Greco, the university area commander. We also had our council chairs at the new CPOA office, where we conducted our yearly ordinance review, and we had excellent suggestions, and we had positive discussions at that meeting. We also attended the National Night Out in each of the area commands, and there were over 200 events in the city this year, and we attended 7 of them. In the Southeast Area Command, the attendance was up and down. One event had 50 or so people, 2 others were unattended, 4 were in between. The purpose was to get the CPC for Southeast to get more members, because right now they only have 3. But currently we do have 1 person who filled out the application for Southeast. And some updates is that we do have a new audio system. So we have 4 microphones, which we'll be testing out throughout the other CPC meetings. And with the youth CPC, Angela Ragland, we do have, talking with him about a schedule for the rest of the year for the youth CPC, and have written letters to the educational bodies in Albuquerque to get new members for their youth CPC. And we are getting closer to our advertising to hopefully get on the TV and radio ads in September. And we are planning our year-end banquet for December. We haven't picked out a date yet, so we'll let everybody know when that is. And I stand for questions.
Any questions from the board? No, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate it. The next report is going to be from the mayor's office by Mr. Doug Small. All right, we're going to move on to the CPOA report by Executive Director Diane McDermott.
Thank you, Chair. So the CPOA has received 83 complaints intakes from July 1st to July 31st. Oh, excuse me, 82. Sorry, I can't read my own typing here. 34 complaints were assigned for investigation between CPOA and ones appropriately already with IA or assigned to IA. 24 were driving complaints. 1 was actually a communications type complaint. These were all resolved with the supervisor of these employees. 6 were assigned for mediation, and 17 were miscellaneous, where either it was insufficient information, it was not APD personnel, or the complaint was resolved, again, through just they wanted information or something that we resolved for them. And then we also received 7 commendations. This is a reminder to the board to advise if there is a Monday that is not going to work for any board member in either late October or November for the SWAT training presentation. We want to nail down a date. They had said Monday was the best day. Tuesday, if they had to, would be an alternate. So if you can get to me any conflicts that you may have so that we can schedule it so all board members can attend. This would be part of some of the training that you can apply to your training. The annual review for the board's policies and procedures is actually also approaching in October of 25. So if the procedures need any modification, please start considering them individually. And then the ad hoc committee should be probably established in September again to review and make possible recommendations to the full board. Those, of course, if you remember, have to be ultimately approved by council. Council, as you had already heard from Mr. Sylvan, council approved the second half of 2024 semi-annual report. They didn't have any comments or questions. It's now published on our website. I did have the normal meeting with the chair, and just to give the board a heads up, the chair has decided for September that the board is going to hear 4 OIS cases and 4 level 3 cases, so a total of 8. These are going to be from the 2025 Force Review Board list, so you know you're now getting to a more current time frame. And APD will prepare the materials as soon as possible. There is an ask of please be prepared and dedicate extra time because we have more cases. Additionally, if you have any questions that you anticipate you're going to want to ask Commander Norris, if you could get those to me as soon as possible, and then I'll get them to him so that he can kind of have some more targeted review, again, because it's a lot of reviews. So it would be very helpful if you can get questions early, if you have any, for the commander especially. The final issue that I am not really at liberty to discuss in extensive detail at this time, but I did want to bring to the board's attention, is a recently published MOU between the APOA and the administration that directly impacts how the CPOA conducts its interviews. I am working with our legal team to develop an appropriate response and would like to reserve details until that's more solidified, but I will keep the board apprised. So, and stand for any other questions.
Thank you, Executive Director McDermott. One thing I actually wanted to chat about specifically is around the SWAT for October and November. I think, you know, the later we do it in October, I think the better. So I was thinking October 20th or the 27th, because then that's enough time after Balloon Fiesta that we could do it. So, and I would rather get a date now and then we make sure we can do it versus the back and forth, because I know we've been talking about it for a while. So I figured let's just get something going, so.
And Chair, if I may just interrupt for a quick second, it has just come to my attention that October 20th through 24th may be some training that the agency is going to do or need to do. So if we could work outside of that, that would be great.
No. So the 27th, how about, is that acceptable? So 27th, so the last Monday in October. We good with that? The answer is no. 27th. You don't want to go down.
I'm good.
Yeah, you don't, yeah. You're like me. So then what about the November 3rd? November 3rd?
Fine.
Oh, no, now you're gonna have a trip too?
November 3rd works.
Okay, yeah, so let's slate for November 3rd, so that way we're not causing any issues with annual training or anything like that. So.
All right, I will reach out to the SWAT commander. It should hopefully be enough notice that they should be able to work.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
November 3rd,
perfect.
I know the daytime of some sort was expected. I don't know about morning or afternoon. I don't know if members have a preference. Okay. So
Yeah,
just
I think
whatever.
just getting on the books will be the best. Hopefully just not 5 a.m. wake-ups. That's all I care about. The next thing is I want to chat about the next couple of board meetings for the use of force cases and OISs is we're going to do 4 of each. So each board member will get 1 of each, just so then that way we can start kind of catching up and making a dent in the backlog, so then we can start doing more current or recent use of force in OISs. So that's kind of the purpose of trying to just front load a little bit. We've done over a year, 18 months now, so I think we can kind of make things go a little quicker, so.
How behind are we?
We are still in like mid to,
So we're currently, the FRB list that I received from APD, I didn't bring it with me, but I want to say it had approximately 25, 27, something like that. And, was it 22? Okay, 22, sorry, correction, overestimating. So from January that was through July. So each FRB has between 3 and 4 cases, but not all of them are ones that the board typically hears. So it's not that you're behind per se, but it would be better if you can kind of get a chunk of those early ones out, and then that way things will be hopefully closer, and especially with the MOU that was signed where the videos don't have to be redacted, so APD should be able to produce the materials a little easier and faster. The goal would be it happens at FRB and maybe that like following month, the board then hears it. So things would be a little more contemporary for everyone, so.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, didn't you check? Nope, guess his mic is not working. Cool. Oh, darn. So with that, any other questions for Director McDermott for the CPOA update? Awesome. Thank you so much. So then the next order of business is we're going to move on to the serious use of force case. And the first case we have up is APD case 23-008-6360, presented by Member Weimark.
Date and time of incident, October 26, 2023 at 22:16 hours. Location, Wyoming and Montgomery Boulevard, Northeast. IFD findings, level 2, Officer 1, empty-handed control causing injury out of policy. Level 1, Officer 1, empty hand takedown, no injury. Empty hand control, empty hand control, empty hand control, empty hand control, total of 4. Empty hand knee strike, all were out of policy. Person's information TV involved officers Officer 1 and Officer 2. While on patrol, Officer 1 pulled over a speeding white sedan. He approached the vehicle to investigate and then returned to his car. While he was in it, TV stepped out of the passenger side of the sedan, making incomprehensible statements, pointing back at the car, and then got back in. The officer requested additional unit. After completing the traffic citations, he went back to speak with TV, who was still making incomprehensible statements through a closed window. TV then threatened to push the door open and hit the officer. He demanded TV's identification as her threat placed her under arrest for assault. TV then opened the car door, which hit the officer. TV got out of the car, proceeding to ignore verbal commands. The officer grabbed TV's left arm, facing her toward the car. TV tried to pull away, but the officer kept control. He made TV fall forward onto her knee and then rolled her onto her back. His OBRD turned off as he turned TV onto her stomach. There were some minor injuries. TV actively resisted and managed to kick the officer in the face. He gave a knee strike and then rolled TV on her stomach and placed her right arm behind her back. TV started saying ow when placed in handcuffs. Based on the totality of circumstances, the uses of force were found not to be reasonable, minimal, or necessary. TV was compliant once taken into custody. She received medical attention for an injury to the right side of her head, an abrasion to her left ring finger, and redness to her left eye. Officer 1 had an abrasion on his right knuckle. TV was charged with battery and assault on a peace officer, an attempt to escape from custody. She has not been involved in other uses of force. There were violations identified for SOPs and personnel rules and regulations. There were none for administrative instructions. The deficiencies and concerns was that Officer 2 misidentified escape from custody whilst TV was resisting arrest. Officer 1 indicated the use of force investigation takes precedence over any other investigation. His concern was addressed during his use of force interview. No other deficiencies or concerns were identified.
Thank you, Member Weimark. CPOA Deputy Director Abbasi, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yes, Chair. Thank you, members of the board. This case involves an officer's use of force on a female passenger during a traffic stop for speeding. While the officer was issuing a citation to the driver, the passenger engaged in a verbal exchange with both the driver and the officer. While arguing with the officer, the passenger stated she would use the vehicle door to strike the officer if he did not move away and stop shining light in her face. According to the administrative interview, he did not perceive the statement as a threat at the time because he was positioned outside the arc of the door. The passenger then aggressively opened the door, making contact with the officer. The officer classified the threat to hit with the door statement and the door contact as an assault and a battery on a peace officer and initiated an arrest. During the arrest, the officer employed empty hand techniques, including a takedown and a knee strike after she did not comply with his commands. The officer also alleged that she kicked him in the use of force narrative. However, his body camera shut off right when the takedown occurred, and we could not validate whether she did in fact kick the officer. The force was categorized as a level 2 use of force, and IAFT determined it to be out of policy, citing that officer did not have a lawful objective to contact the passenger to begin with. During the pre-disciplinary hearing of this case, the Superintendent of Police Reform reviewed the officer's submitted evidence, OBRD footage, and the judicial determination from 2 separate judges who cited that probable cause existed for the charges of assault and battery on a peace officer. The Superintendent of Police Reform overturned the sustained finding, changing the disposition to exonerate it, concluding the officer did have a lawful objective. He also noted that alternative approaches to the situation were possible, but they determined that no policy violation occurred on part of the officer.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Commander Norse, is there anything that APD would like to add? No. Are there any questions from the board members?
No.
Okay.
Did his OBRD turn off?
Yes.
Oh, good, because I read it 3 or 4 times to make sure. And was there a knee strike?
Well, that's according to statements.
Okay.
We didn't see any of that on any of the existing OBRD. Obviously, couldn't see that on the officer's OBRD, which got shut off during the encounter. So we had to go off statements from what the officers made.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, no questions. So with that, do the board members agree with the findings of the Internal Affairs Force investigation?
Yes.
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 Chair, quick question. I
Oh,
mean,
sorry.
just to be clear, because there is a discrepancy between IFD's original finding and then what the superintendent's office came up with, just you are stating that you're agreeing with the IFD finding of out of policy. Is that correct? Just making sure.
Is that what we're agreeing with? And that, I think, yes, because we saw it originally as out of policy, so that is the affirmative of we're
I just want to
agreeing.
make sure the record was clear.
Yeah.
So.
No, I appreciate that, Executive Director. Is that what we're, sorry?
Because
Yes.
that's the information that we're
Because
getting.
that, correct, that is the information that we're giving and we're going off of. So with that, I make a motion that the Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board affirms and upholds the finding of APD's Internal Affairs Force investigation for APD case 23-0086-360. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Lamarck. Ms. Brillo, can I get a member roll call vote, please?
Member Bolianitz,
Affirmed.
Member Budenaro,
Affirmed.
Member Calderon,
Affirmed.
Member Whitemark.
Affirmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brillo. The next order of business is officer-involved shooting cases. The first case we have up will be presented by Member Budenaro, and that's APD case 24-0035-405.
Thank you, Chair. A synopsis, this occurred April 30th, an officer-involved shooting around 28 hours, located at 30 Rainbow Road. On April 2024, APD auto theft detective focused investigation efforts on MR, a repeat auto theft offender with active warrants in Albuquerque and a documented history of fleeing from law enforcement. MR was also identified as a known narcotics user and believed to be armed. On April 30th, surveillance tracked MR between several stolen vehicles, including a Hyundai Elantra, a GMC Acadia. Detectives observed reckless driving, evasive maneuvers, and travel through areas known for stolen vehicle activity. Late in that day, MR drove to a Valero near Sandia Casino, then into the casino parking structure. Officers coordinated to control the pace of the GMC Acadia, enabling a covert grappler vehicle to successfully disable the car on Rainbow Road. Multiple officers were deployed around the vehicle with a mix of lethal and less lethal options. Commands, warnings were issued for approximately 39 seconds. Officers attempted verbal de-escalation, assuring MR of his safety if he complied. MR responded that officers would have to shoot him. 2 female passengers exited the vehicle and complied with police officers' orders, laying prone in the roadway medium. Officers perceived their exit to be indicative of a fear towards MR. Active resistance to less lethal deployment, MR remained in the vehicle and began accelerating forward and backward, trying to break free of the grappler, creating a risk for officers positioned nearby. Beanbag and 40 millimeter impact munitions were deployed to break the rear and side windows, both to improve communication and reduce MR's visibility of officers' positions. Gunfire exchanged shortly after. MR fired multiple rounds from inside the vehicle toward officers. Muzzle flashes were observed by several officers, and gunshots were heard over body-worn camera audio. Officers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 returned fire to stop the deadly threat, engaging from positions of cover around the vehicle. BRD footage and interviews confirmed MR's active gunfire and the officer's response. Rifle 40 millimeter discharges, as well as the initial beanbag deployments, were later reviewed by IAFD and found to be objectively reasonable and consistent with APD policy. After the final exchange of gunfire, the GMC Acadia came to a stop. MR was seen slumped over the floorboard near a firearm. Officers approached using a coordinated cover plan, removed MR from the vehicle using a controlled takedown, and rendered medical aid. Investigative findings, multiple levels of force, including big beanbag, 40 millimeter rifle fire, were all within APD policy. No violations of standard operating procedures, personnel rules, or administrative instructions were found. Force was determined to be reasonable, minimal, and necessary under the circumstances. Chair.
Thank you, Member Budenaro. Deputy Director Bassi, does the CPOA have anything to add?
Yes, Chair, just few things. This incident involved detectives from the auto theft unit who had a lawful objective to apprehend a suspect, Mr. R, who was identified as a serial car theft offender. Detectives had been conducting surveillance for several weeks, and during the stop near Sandia Casino, utilized a grappler device to immobilize the suspect's vehicle. The auto theft unit operates under statewide authority through the Office of Superintendent of Insurance to investigate theft-related crimes. At the time of the stop, Mr. R was a wanted felon based on the statements made by the female passengers prior to exiting the vehicle, as well as comment heard by officers on scene. Mr. R expressed that he did not want to return to jail and stated, "You're going to have to shoot me." After the 2 passengers exited, Mr. R remained inside despite repeated commands from officers to exit the vehicle. He subsequently discharged firearms at officers, and in response to the threat, 4 officers discharged a total of 24 rifle rounds. Mr. R sustained injuries but survived the incident. The IAFD determined the force to be reasonable, minimal, and necessary. And one additional thing I want to raise, that during our review, we did not find any documentation indicating whether APD coordinated with other law enforcement agencies such as an NMSP or Bernalillo County Sheriff Office during the couple weeks long surveillance operation. It is unclear if such coordination is a standard practice to prevent such surveillance operation from being compromised if, for instance, another agency conduct a felony stop on the vehicle. This point was not addressed in the investigation or in the interviews with the involved on-scene supervisors.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Commander Norris, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Nothing at this time.
Board members, do you have any questions, comments for either CPOA or Commander Norris?
Commander Norris, I've got a quick question, and I'm not sure you can even answer this, but
Sure.
From what I understood, if I read it correctly, Bernalillo and BCSO had contact with this individual earlier.
Several weeks earlier, I believe.
Several
yes.
weeks earlier.
Yes.
But the warrants were active probably for them as well, right? They would have seen it.
If the warrants were active, they would have seen that, and I think I can make a safe assumption they probably would have tried to take him into custody if those warrants were active. That's correct.
So there's not a they wouldn't have known. It just seemed odd.
Right, no, I mean, depending on the, I guess, the nature of the contact, if they had positively identified this individual and then checked him for warrants, and if those warrants were active at that time, like I said, it's hard for me to speak to what BCSO's actions are, but I would make a safe assumption if somebody's showing a felony warrant, that a BCSO deputy would do what they could to take this individual into custody, had those warrants been active at the time. I will say that IFD did recognize several tactical issues that we wanted to address during, and that we did address during the investigation. For instance, looking at using a beanbag shotgun to break out windows, mirrors, depending on whatever the circumstance is. You know, it could, playing devil's advocate, that can do one of two things. It can either accomplish the goal that the auto theft unit was trying to, or it could accomplish their goal of better communications, taking out the visibility where the officers are. IFD's contention is this guy knows where you're at, you're behind him. So he's probably gonna just stick the gun out and shoot behind him. Could beg the question that shooting beanbag rounds into a vehicle, although could be mistaken for real rounds, could possibly, the question needs to be asked, could the possibility exist that that induces a deadly force situation? We didn't find it, that it induced the deadly force situation in this particular case. However, we did address it with the chain of command because that was becoming a common tactic being used. And it's something that was the commander of that division at the time thought that he should address as well. The other issue that we saw was the two females that did exit the vehicle on their own accord, trying to or making an effort to get them to come towards the officer so they could be behind cover in the event that there is an officer involved shooting, which this culminated in. And we addressed that with the chain of command as far as with some of their tactics as well.
Yeah, no, with those items being stated, I appreciate you guys kind of looking at it at that lens and analyzing it and being very helpful. So I appreciate the candor and forwardness that you guys are doing for that analysis and that feedback on that incident. So, did you have anything to? Nope. All right. With that, do we agree with the findings of APD's internal affairs investigation? Yes. So with that, I make a motion that the Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board affirms and upholds the findings of APD's Internal Affairs Force investigation for APD case 24-0035405. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Budenaro. Ms. Perla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Member Bouillonnet?
Affirmed.
Member Budenaro?
Affirmed.
Member Calderon?
Affirm.
Member Weimark?
Affirmed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that motion passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perla. The next APD case will be presented by Member Calderon, and that is APD case 24-004-0107.
Thank you, Chair. I get a pretty straightforward case this week, so I'm happy. Or this month. APD case number 24-004-0107 occurred on May 16th of 2024. Force used was a handgun discharge ×2 from officer number 1, which is level 3. Summary of event: officer number 1 was in the area attempting to locate a stolen vehicle identified by the automated license plate reader, the ALPR system. While entering the motel driveway, the officer observed JW on the sidewalk next to a bicycle. After initiating a traffic stop for a violation, JW stopped and crouched on the northwest corner of Central Avenue and Macias Street northeast. During this time, a clear plastic bag containing suspected blue fentanyl pills fell to the ground. Officer number 1 advised JW that he was under arrest for possession of fentanyl and issued a force warning while grasping JW's arm. JW pulled away and fled on foot to the residence at 130 Macias Drive Southeast, positioning himself behind a parked sedan. When officer number 1 approached in the marked vehicle, JW pointed a black handgun at officer number 1. At the time, officer number 1 created distance by moving behind his vehicle and discharging his firearm twice towards JW, missing him. At that time, Officer number one initiated radio contact with dispatch to advise of the situation, and other officers arrived to assist in the detention of JW. And that's the most use of force in that one, and that was pretty cut and dry. Individual's behavior after taking custody was JW was searched. After being placed in custody, rescue personnel were on scene and evaluated JW, who was not transported to a local hospital. Injuries sustained by officers and individuals. Officer number one did not have any injuries. JW had several injuries. Some appeared to be pre-existing prior to the incident, and some may have been caused by fleeing on foot into backyards and through shrubs and greenery. The individual was charged, so JW was charged with aggravated assault on a peace officer. JW was found to have one prior use of force prior to this incident. All findings of use of force by Internal Affairs Force Division investigation found the use of the force objectively reasonable and within APD policy. All were believed to be reasonable, minimal, and necessary. APD's IAFD did locate or did determine tactics and equipment concerns were identified. Training policies and supervision, no deficiencies or concerns were identified. Chair.
Thank you, Member Calderon. Deputy Director Abbasi, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Chair, thank you, members of the board. This incident involved an officer searching for a stolen vehicle that had been identified through ALPR. And while in the area, he observed a male who was later identified as Mr. W closing the gate of the motel. The officer drove into the motel driveway but did not locate the stolen vehicle in the parking lot. Mr. W left the location on a bicycle. The officer initiated a traffic stop for violations of a city ordinance that prohibits riding a bicycle on the sidewalk and for not having a headlamp in low visibility conditions. During the contact, the officer observed Mr. W remove items from his pocket, and at which point a small plastic bag, presumably containing fentanyl pills, fell to the ground. The officer advised Mr. W that he was under arrest and issued a force warning in the event he attempted to flee. As the officer began to detain him, Mr. W broke free and fled on foot. The officer pursued him in his patrol vehicle. Mr. W entered the driveway of a residence located approximately 1 block away from the initial detention location and positioned himself behind a parked vehicle. As the officer arrived, he observed Mr. W ducking behind the vehicle and allegedly pointing a firearm toward him. The officer exited his patrol vehicle, created distance by moving backward, and discharged 2 rounds in Mr. W's direction. Mr. W was not hit and fled the scene, but was later located without further incident in the same area. A firearm was not found on his person. However, a search of the backyard from where he was located the next day resulted in a recovery of a firearm hidden beneath a dryer. The IAFD determined the force to be in policy. The Department Force investigation also identified potential misconduct related to use of OBRD, not reporting policy violations, and other search and seizure related issues. Our review determined that the department appropriately handled all the additional identified issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director Abbasi. Commander Norris, is there anything that you would like to add? Nothing I'd like to add. Member Budinaro, board, any questions?
One. On the tactics and equipment, the concerns that were identified, can you elaborate on them a little more?
Yeah, actually, what had happened when the officer fired his first shot, his weapon-mounted light flew off. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, that was an equipment issue, obviously. It wasn't faulty equipment. It was just the fact that that officer needed to cinch down that weapon-mounted light a little bit tighter on the rail is all that was, and that was taken care of.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Is I saw that light fly off, and I was curious if it was like the spring one, or if it was actually like a screw tighten one.
No, it was screwed.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
there are spring loaded to put
Yeah.
in there, but it was more of a screw issue. It just wasn't cinched down tight enough. That's all.
Okay. That's it. Okay. All right, I'm good. Board, do we agree with the Internal Affairs Force? This? Okay. Then with that, I make a motion that the Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board affirms and upholds the finding of APD Internal Internal Affairs Force Division investigation for APD case 24-0040107. May I get a second?
Second that motion.
Thank you, Member Calderon. Ms. Brillo, may I get a member roll call vote, please?
Member Billionitz,
Affirmed.
Member Budenaro,
Affirmed.
Member Calderon,
Affirm.
Member Weimark.
Affirmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brillo. The next use of force case will be presented by myself, and that is APD case 24-0049691. This date of incident was June 20th, 2024 at 8:33 hours. And the location is 398th Street Northwest. Interesting. Did I do that wrong? No. On June, a report of a individual reported their black Nissan Frontier stolen from a Walmart parking lot on Sage Road southwest. Then on June 20th, 2024 at 8:38 a.m., officers observed a gray Ford escape with a stolen license plate and attempted a traffic stop. The vehicle fled, prompting a pursuit involving multiple vehicles and air support. Spike strips were deployed, but they initially failed to stop the vehicle. The Ford, and then for the initial pursuit and vehicle switch, the Ford Escape stopped in the parking lot with the two occupants. Mr. M and Miss B exited and entered the black Frontier. Officer 7 approached the Frontier, firearm drawn and pointed at the ground, attempting to detain Miss B, who resisted and slipped away as the vehicle fled. Officer 1 opened the driver's side door, pointed his handgun at Mr. M, and grabbed his forearm, but Mr. M drove off, breaking free. Air support tracked the Nissan Frontier as officers deployed stop sticks, successfully disabling the vehicle. Mr. M drove off the 98th Street into a desert area near the I-40 off-ramp, stopping in front of a tunnel. Both Mr. M and Miss B exited the vehicle and fled into the tunnel. Mr. M claimed to be armed, which of course escalated the situation. The officers 6 and 9 positioned themselves at the tunnel's east entrance, deploying their rifles, taking cover behind the Nissan Frontier. Both officers aimed at the tunnel, but they could not see Mr. M or Miss B. When tactical support for officers 2, 3, and 8 arrived, Mr. M referred to him, Mr. M and Miss B as Bonnie and Clyde, and was observed holding Miss B as a hostage. Officer 8 deployed his rifle, maintaining aim at Mr. M through the encounter. Officer 4 deployed a 40mm munition launcher, aiming at Mr. M as he moved toward the Nissan Frontier with Miss B. Officer 3 positioned at the patrol vehicle's hood, aimed his rifle at Mr. M's head, but lowered when Miss B entered the line of fire, and he re-aimed once Miss B was in the driver's seat. Use of force. Mr. M reached into the Nissan Frontier. Officer 4 fired a 44mm round, striking Mr. M's abdomen. Officer 3 fired his rifle, striking Mr. M in the lower back, causing him to slump over further into the truck. Officer 5 simultaneously fired a 44mm round, hitting Mr. M's right side. Officer 3 fired 2 additional rifle rounds into Mr. M's lower back, causing him to collapse further. Officer 4 fired another 40mm round, which missed. Officer 3, at the same time, fired a rifle round into Mr. M's neck, causing him to fall to the ground, disarming him while Mr. M was falling, he disarmed himself and the firearm fell out of his hand. Miss B exited the vehicle with her hands raised, briefly bending down, prompting Officer 5 to aim his 40mm at her, suspecting that she might reach for Mr. M's firearm before surrendering. The forces that were used, there were a few, oddly enough. There were 5 rifle firearm discharges, multiple and these are all in policy. So multiple 40 millimeter deployments being ordered, rifle pointing, those were all within policy. The individual's behavior after he was taken into custody, rescue was on scene to assess Mr. B and transported Mrs. B to Presbyterian Hospital, and upon which being released, she was booked into MDC for her charges. Medical was provided to both individuals. No officers were injured during this incident. Mr. M was pronounced deceased at the scene, and Miss B sustained no injuries. Miss B was charged with having 2 felony warrants for her arrest. Both Mr. M and Miss B were found to have no prior use of forces. There were potential policy violations that were cited around supervisors being involved as witnesses. Tactics deficiencies and concerns were identified around deploying stop strips, supervisors taking active role in critical events, officers running with handguns and avoided pointing at each other with crossfire, covering weapons. Training deficiencies were identified for mishandling evidence. Deputy Director, does the CPOA have anything that they would like to add?
Yes, Chair. You pretty much covered everything in this case. At the time of the incident, Mr. B, he was armed and had engaged in multiple acts of flights from officer from earlier that day, was facing active felony charges and had taken a hostage after barricading himself for more than an hour. His actions created a high likelihood of continued flight and posed a risk of re-entering the traffic, potentially leading to another pursuit and endangering both the safety of the officers and members of the public. All force applications, all the use and shows of force during the incident were determined to be within policy. There were, as Member Bullion had stated, there were potential misconduct identified during the investigation, and all those issues were handled appropriately by the department. There were also 2 policy recommendations that resulted from this incident, to include defining what inadvertent covering means, and in order to ensure that there is consistent application throughout the department, and clarifying supervisor responsibilities following the officer-involved shooting. Currently, the policy states that inadvertent covering with a firearm is not considered a use of force, but there is no definition that we could find in SOP 2-53. And then concerning the supervisor responsibilities, there was a recent special order, and Commander Norris could speak to it, that was published in July 2025, that now gives the authority to those supervisors who witnessed the use of force. They can conduct the use of on-scene use of force investigation and classify the use of force. But the policy does not explicitly distinguish OIS responses from other level 3 use of force incidents.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Commander Norris, is there anything that you would like to add?
Nothing at this point.
Nope. Board members, do we have any questions for Commander Norris? Member Brunara?
No. I was curious what inadvertent covering.
I actually had questions around that one, and a couple of other things. So, one, and this is just for my own edification, is would have there been a way to, we had the 2 officers initially had physical contact, right? So they were already hands-on. Is there a way to, deploy a less lethal option like a EDW or ECW or OC spray or something like that to help mitigate that whole thing before they fled, or was that even an option?
Well, the last thing we want to do is OC spray somebody who's behind the wheel of a vehicle, who's behind the wheel, driving a car. We've done that before, and we train that out of officers, because you can imagine what happens. They take off, they become even more dangerous because they don't know what they're doing, because they can't see what they're doing. ECW It's always an option. That's not something that we question, being as though how quickly some of this unfolded, right? It really just kind of depends, I think, on the options that are presented to you at the time that are feasible relative to the totality of circumstance. But we would probably expressly prohibit OC spraying somebody who is operating a motor vehicle.
Nope, that makes sense. I just was thinking, like, if you're hands-on these individuals, you know, what's the, if we got, you know, and hindsight's 20/20. Let me be very clear, right?
Sure.
Is if we got them out, would that have stopped the whole situation, or would it? We were already hands-on, so that's where I'm like, you know, ECW deployment to incapacitate them. Would that have got them out?
Are you asking me if it would have?
This is hypothetical.
Yeah, so
right?
it's difficult for me to answer that.
And so that's where it's, you know, from a training perspective, I'm kind of curious of your thoughts as to, you know, one, that would help with that policy of inadvertent, you know, covering each other officers with firearms, which I think happened at that time, right? And then a way to get them out of that vehicle. And so I'm kind of curious to you your thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts as far as inadvertently covering, unfortunately, that's going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Especially given situations like that. Inadvertent essentially means that this officer was not intending to point his firearm at this individual as a show of force. Dynamics of the situations like that are very fluid engagements, and those types of things happen. So it's just kind of one of those things that we have to consider when we're investigating things like this. In terms of using the ECW as a force option in situations like that, officers always have that option relative to somebody's active resistance. Whether they choose to exercise that option relative to feasibility and possibility of doing that is completely, it's going to be based off of what they're perceiving at that time, if they're even able to successfully deploy that weapon system given the amount of time they have to deploy it. So it's not something that it's a situation that it can be looked at in terms of trying to recreate that and seeing if that's an option, but it's not something that we would hammer into training that if this happens, you will do this.
Right. Yeah.
Because things just, like I said, they're very fluid engagements, so it's very, very difficult to restrict an officer to, you know, one or two single options, especially relative to feasibility.
Yeah, no, they did the best they could at the time, right? Like, they were hands-on and trying to pull them out, so I just was trying to think of other ways, right? And help to improve tactics and training, stuff like that. With that, I'm gonna go back to the board with any other questions for Commander Norris? Do we agree with the findings of IAFD?
Yes.
Then with that, I make a motion that the Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board affirms and upholds the finding of APD's Internal Affairs Forced Investigation for APD Case 24-004-9691. May I get a second?
Second that motion.
Thank you, Member Calderon. Ms. Brillo, may I get a roll call vote, please?
Member Bolianitz?
Affirmed.
Member Budenaro?
Affirmed.
Member Calderon?
Affirmed.
Member Weimark?
Affirmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brillo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commander.
Commander Norris. The next order of business is appeals, which is a standing item. We do not have any appeals. Oh, sorry, Executive Director McDermott.
Just wanted to advise that we did receive an appeal, but they did ask for a delay. So that will be postponed until October's meeting, and that's for CPC 335-24. So we received one timely, but they are going to be out of the country, so asking for a delay.
Awesome. Thank you, Executive Director. But with that, we will move on to the next order of business, which is the reports from the CPOA-B subcommittees. The first one up is the Policy and Procedure Subcommittee by Member Coulter.
Thank you, Chair. Policy and Procedures Review Subcommittee met on August 7th at 3 p.m. at the new offices for the CPOA. We will be discussing that in our next agenda item, the outcome of that. The next meeting will be September 4th of 2025 at 3 p.m. at the new CPOA offices. I can't remember the address, so it'll be posted. Either way, with that, back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Calderon. Members have any questions?
No.
So the next order, or the next report, is the ad hoc audit committee presented by myself. So Member Budinaro and I, we met on Monday, this past Monday, August 11th. We went through the audit findings. Everything was found to be copacetic. Our next meeting, we have not scheduled a date yet for the next audit, which we have to do every 6 months. But we're going to try to do that next one in October. We have not set that date yet, but that is the plan, to start that audit, get that audit case, and then hopefully in November we'll have the findings. But no guarantees, but as of right now, it's still TBD. Members have any questions around the audit?
Nope.
No? All right.
Mr. Chairman, sorry about that, but when you say to be determined, what the next meeting is set for October 14th at 10 a.m.
Oh, sorry, yes, guess it set for October 15th. So our next meeting to actually select it.
October 14th.
I apologize. Mine is not, my agenda is wrong. I apologize. So yes, the next meeting is October 14th at 10 a.m. at the new CPOA office. And that's where we'll be selecting the next audit. So thank you, Ms. Brella, for that for the reminder and clarification. Any questions?
No.
Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the discussion of possible actions. The first up is the Safety of Our City Conference in 2025, presented by Executive Director McDermott.
Thank you, Chair. I did send you, hopefully you saw the email with the link that gave some of the details. I do have the agenda here if you need me to go over it anything, but the 27th of August, the 28th, and the 29th are the dates. So because this is an opportunity to get some training that, especially this year, it does not look like we're probably going to have funding for NACOL. So this is sort of a replacement option for that. So we can send 2 board members through. The registration is $699. So again, there is full expectation that members would attend all 3 days. I understand Member Calderon is already going for his professional job. So he won't gain the benefit of CPOA training because of that, because he's attending for his actual position. So we can send 2 members if 2 members wish to go. If that's the case, though, we will need to send a notice of quorum, because then there would be a majority of board there. So just if you have any questions about it, like I said, I have the agenda here, and we can send up to 2.
Thank you, Executive Director McDermott. With that said, Member Calderon and myself, we went to the NACOL conference last year. So if 2 members do want to go, Member Budinaro and Member Wymark, you guys are up. So it's up to you guys if you guys want to go. If no, totally okay. But I wanted to give you guys first dibs.
Thank you.
So do you want to go?
I got a job.
Slacker. So Member Budinaro is a no. Member Wymark?
I'd like to go, but I'm afraid my disabilities might make it difficult to just move around and be part of it, so.
Obviously,
ADA
I
is a
can't.
bit silly. I think I can do it.
I can't speak to what accommodations they have, but I
Yeah,
mean, in
they
general,
probably do,
conferences
don't they?
are accommodating to any kind of disability. So, I mean, if you can get there, I'm sure that the conference itself is, could be feasible.
It looks to be in one location. For some reason, my mic is acting full. But it looks to be in one conference room, not
Okay,
like broken
oh,
up, kind of
right.
like NACOL. So it looks like it to be more consolidated.
Okay.
So I think you would
I think I
it'll be
can
fine
make it then.
and benefit from it.
Yeah.
We'll push you along.
Oh, are you looking? Are you gonna change your decision?
Problem is it's the end of the month for me.
Yeah,
And that's a
you
problem.
gotta, speak into your mic for all of us to hear.
Yeah, it's the end of the month for me, so it's a little tougher
Yeah.
arranging schedules. Yeah, and we need all 3 days?
Yep,
No.
no. So you're in,
Yeah.
Member Budinaro is out. I will be in since, Member Budinaro does not want to be in because he wants to work his real job and actually make money. So yeah, then they will so executive director, it'll be myself and Member Wymark. And of course, Member Calderon will be there, just not for the board, so we will need to post notice of quorum. And we can then make fun of Member Calderon for not wanting to participate with the cool people. So.
All right, we will process your registrations and then we'll post the notice. So.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. The next topic is the National Guard presentation update request. That is from myself. So a few months ago, it's going to be about 4 months now, we had the National Guard, we had somebody coming in to talk about the National Guard deployment for the city of Albuquerque. I have not heard anything from really anybody. So I was hoping that we could put in a request to get a kind of a status update of how things are going, difficulties, whatever. If this is going to be a longer term engagement, right? We don't know what we don't know, and so that's where I wanted to kind of bring this back up to this group to say, hey, this is something I think we should find a little update on, even though it could be halfway or it could be done. We don't know. So just get an update if you guys are in agreement with that.
Sure.
Yeah, I support it.
Cool.
Sure.
Look, your mic works now. So Executive Director McDermott.
Do you intend to have that for September if feasible, or is there?
September if feasible, because it's been a long enough time where we haven't heard anything. And unfortunately, in this case, no news. I don't want to, no news is no news, so we just don't know. We don't know how it's going. We know nothing. And so I was hoping that we could have an update and more of a timeline of what things look like. So.
Okay, I'll reach out. I believe it was Commander Hernandez that had
Yes.
provided originally, so I'll reach out to him and see what's available and go from there.
Cool. I appreciate it. So any other questions from the board on that?
No.
All right. Then the next up is, or the next order of business is the APD policies. First, before we go, there are no policies that will have recommendations, but I do want to turn that over first to Executive Director Abbasi and Member Calderon if there's anything specific you want to add. And our policy analyst, Gabe, sorry.
So I'll kick off real quick before we jump off. So the policies that we have listed is actually probably one of the smallest meetings and the fastest meetings we've had ever. It's really nice. But none of us had recommendations. When I say us, I mean CPOA as well as myself, or Member Weimar. None of us had any recommendations on these policies. There are also a couple APD responses that we'll do after the fact. But with that being said, Dirk, who wants it?
Executive Director
Gabe.
Oh,
Gabe wants it? Gabe.
Policy Analyst Gabe.
Happy to. Yes, good evening, everyone. So when it comes to the APD responses, if you...
Whoa, hold up. Let's go back. We're just going to
All the
talk
way
about
through-
no recommendations first.
Yeah, no recommendations. That's
Okay,
correct.
so no recommendations, Executive Director, anything for the no recommendations? Okay. So we're going to cover this one first before we move on to the responses. So officially for the record, there are no recommendations for SOP 1-75 Grant Administration Division, SOP 1-87 Scientific Evidence Division, SOP 2-24 Hazardous Material Incident Response, SOP 2-67 Lineup and Field Identifications, SOP 2-100 Emergency Communications Center Division, SOP 2-111 Record Division Unit, and SOP 3-6 Language Access Policy. And so with that wrapped up, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is APD response to policy recommendations.
Yes.
So with that, we will now turn it over to policy analyst Gabe.
Great. So we had 2 responses last month. The first was with SOP 286, auto theft and motor vehicle theft related investigations. This was an older recommendation. It wasn't seen by the policy unit until later, but the recommendation concerned the notice of found stolen vehicles and the documentation of them and the notice to the owner. Fortunately, that was concurred with. It will be incorporated into the next upcoming revision. Moving on to SOP 273, collection, submission, and disposition of evidence and property. This goes kind of hand in hand with another recommendation that was submitted the month before, SOP 271, search and seizure without a warrant. And I provided a little bit of a summary where I tried to make sense of the case law and everything else in the most concise way that I could on the back. And just to frame where I was coming from with my concerns here was that when I was reading these policies, I was just imagining myself as a PSA, just following the policies by themselves and thinking, how would I go about searching certain things if I was just reading the policy? And this gets difficult for APD because the law actually is very nuanced and it's changing pretty quickly. But I'll read through this, and if there's any questions at the end, I'll be happy to answer them. So the CPOA submitted formal considerations regarding 2 APD SOPs, the ones formerly mentioned, SOP 271 and SOP 273. Both the submissions focus on concerns with the new policy language regarding inventory and safekeeping searches, and those 2 terms are sometimes interchangeable, sometimes they're very different. Kind of depends what they're talking about. In APD policy originally, they were pretty interchangeable, but as you'll see in one of the responses, they did clean up some of the clarification of those 2 words later on. But I was concerned with that these searches did not accurately reflect the strict legal requirements and nuances of analysis that are established in recent New Mexico court decisions. The current APD policy correctly identifies the 3 situations for constitutionally reasonable and necessary warrantless searches of inventory searches. And there's the 3 requirements that you need at first, and the last one is that the search is reasonable, and within that there are 3 additional possible justifications. The first 3 requirements, the police must have custody or control of the object or vehicle that they are going to search. That's usually a given when you're looking at the case law. Sometimes there's arguable places there, but that's usually baked in. Number 2 is that the inventory is made pursuant to established police procedures. That's also pretty easy to overcome. The SOPs talk about how to search. But this is where the arguments really come up and the law is changing, is about when the search is reasonable. And within the search being reasonable are these GIM factors named after the first case listed there, which is protecting the arrestee's property, protecting the police from liability claims, stolen or lost property, or ensuring employee safety, officer safety, or anybody in the evidence room or doing the search themselves. Now, APD policy correctly lists these and accurately defines them within policy. However, recent New Mexico case law demonstrates that meeting one of these 3 reasonable justifications isn't as straightforward as it seems. Since GIM, New Mexico courts now apply much stricter scrutiny to determine whether these searches are reasonably necessary under the New Mexico Constitution. And then I supplied very brief, just the situation in the court's finding of 5 cases, and showing this trend of how New Mexico courts are consistently throwing out these inventory search evidence. And as you can see, as in Marquez, one of them happened very recently, just in July 28th. But for many of these reasons, I wasn't able to include, for the sake of brevity, a lot of the court quotes in the analysis they go into. But if you look at GIM, they often follow that kind of thought process where the prosecution or the state, the police will argue that they searched a backpack or a gun safe to ensure employee safety or save them from protecting police liability. But the court will take that argument and find the contrary. They'll say, well, actually, not opening the safe is the safest thing to do. Not looking into the backpack is the safest thing to do. So it's not so much that the requirements were misstated in policy. That's not the case at all. It's that the nuances of how the court analyzes those requirements weren't available in policy. However, that's a very difficult thing to put into policy. The only thing I could imagine being a substitute for that would be listing exceptions. And I don't think that's very conducive to policy writing. I don't think it'd be good to just have a list of a gun safe that you shouldn't open in certain situations or a Fritos canister. I think that would make it even more difficult potentially. So going on to the last page, and I'll continue on, perhaps be a little redundant here, but just so I don't lose anything. The current policy language, while technically accurate, does not reflect the nuanced analysis now applied by New Mexico courts. As a result, APD employees who follow the policy as written may still conduct constitutionally invalid searches if they are unaware of the deeper legal considerations used by courts to balance the law enforcement interests against individual privacy rights. However, the CPOA recognized when we submitted our considerations and concerns that policy language cannot practically address every legal nuance or potential exceptions. Now, to the APD responses themselves, in regard to 273, they added a definition of safekeeping, which is a very good thing for clarity. To clarify the difference between a vehicle inventory search of closed containers and closed containers held for safekeeping, which reads, the act of securely holding, preserving, or protecting property or items of value by the department to ensure their integrity, prevent loss, and maintain a clear chain of custody until they can be properly returned. I think this clears up a little confusion within that policy, but it's also just good to have a definition of safekeeping. I think that's something I asked for in PPRB, but was able to get based on recommendation, written recommendation. Now, this new one that we got this month in regard to SOP 271, they said, thank you for your comment, and we made some changes based on your feedback. These are novel, complex legal issues on which we've consulted with the city legal extensively. This complex case law is also being trained by District Attorney's Office in legal updates to the department's officers. And the notable change that they didn't state it in the response, but I was able to find it within the policy changes, was in section 273.5B1A2. It used to make an appeal to the district attorney stating criminal charges will not be filed as a result of such safekeeping searches unless approved by the district attorney's office or city's attorney's office. Any item of potential evidentiary value discovered during a search of safekeeping property shall be packaged and labeled independently. It now states it removed the approval of a district attorney and added reference to SOP 271, which goes more into the requirements of what is required for those inventory searches. Any items discovered during inventory search in accordance with SOP, search and seizure without a warrant, which may have an evidentiary value, shall be packaged and labeled independently. To wrap up, I believe that APD has taken a constructive approach to these concerns, implementing policy adjustments that include a clear safekeeping definition and emphasizing their commitment to collaborate with the city legal and enhance training through the district attorney's office. While the fundamental concern remains ensuring employees understand that these searches require careful analysis, these responses demonstrate APD's receptiveness to addressing the concern. The CPOA agrees that this is a novel and complex issue and understands that as standards continue to evolve, training and ongoing legal guidance may be more effective than additional policy language. So if there's any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them now or later.
Any questions from?
I have a question. I'm just thinking from an officer standpoint or a PSA standpoint. I mean, when it comes to securing, isn't a legal representation is going to be the one that's going to have to interpret it. It's just an officer's job to secure such items, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
so, you know, in some of those cases, a Ziploc, a zippered bag, for example, and the court ruled that it was unreasonable search. The court held the state's interest in conducting the search did not outweigh the defendant's privacy interests. I guess my question would be, how does an officer have time to consider that, you know, I mean, if they're going through a car, you've seen searches, they go through them very quickly, and if you find a bag and you already suspect somebody's either impaired selling or something, you're gonna open the bag, right? Just for it to be thrown out, do they actually have time to consider the legal ramifications of it being admissible or not?
And that's why I wrote in asking about the training. I think that's the guidance and training that they're receiving is most important because they have to be presented with situations. If I were to just simplify, it's hard for me to imagine based off of what the court has said. It's hard hard for me to picture what would actually qualify in these kind of cases, in these situations, as a valid inventory search. The problem is that the courts are very clear that the requirements are still as they are. So they can be met. The court has not changed that. It's just that the evidence, or of since Jim, the trend is certainly going one way, and it's throwing out the evidence. But it is, I would say that the court is not just throwing out evidence. They are making the assertion that it's a violation of privacy rights. So I don't think the courts, I don't think, would be pleased. I shouldn't speak for the courts, but my understanding would be that they don't want any searches being done that violate privacy rights, whether or not it's going to be used against someone criminally.
Let's pause for a second. Looks like you're getting ready. So, the city attorney, Lindsay.
Yes, board, if I may just jump in and perhaps provide some additional information on these cases. I am very familiar with all of these cases. And so, big picture, an inventory search is one in which you do on a person's items, bag, vehicle, something that they're holding. And it has long been the law in the United States that officers may inventory, see what they are holding when they are arrested. Starting in 2022, our New Mexico Court of Appeals started to change the analysis somewhat when it comes to inventorying closed containers in vehicles. And so the change that has occurred is not necessarily the vehicle search or the backpack search, but the closed containers is the distinction that they have set. That's not entirely clear in and of itself, but that is what the court has said, is that closed containers contain an extra privacy right because we in New Mexico have a preference for warrants that the federal constitution does not provide. And so under our state constitution, we say that these government interests that protecting your property, protecting the officers from claims of liability and safety are not sufficient to overcome one's privacy interest in those things, those items that they've taken an extra step to protect. So for example, in the case of State v. Huerta, which I would say is the clearest case to date on this topic, the January case earlier this year, in which the court specifically addresses what law enforcement agencies should do when they're writing policies. The search of the car was okay. The search of the open backpack was okay. The search of the closed Fritos canister was illegal and was not okay. And that it was inside the Fritos canister under a seal that was not transparent that the drugs were. And the court says you can basically hold an item without searching it. You can tag it, you can hold it for safekeeping and still protect these other government interests that have long been held to be the case. And so that's kind of the logic that has been stated in these cases. Marquez is the first non-vehicle search case that the New Mexico Court of Appeals has addressed. I want to note for the board, State v. Huerta, the NMDOJ has sought to appeal that to the Supreme Court of New Mexico. The New Mexico Supreme Court has not weighed in on this issue, which is somewhat significant as well. The city did file a amicus brief in support of NMDOJ's position to explain how this type of case law impacts law enforcement agencies and impacts employees for the city, because they have essentially said these privacy rights to your closed containers outweigh the safety of the personnel who are carrying those items, who are tagging those items, and that is of some concern. So I just want to note those things for the board as well. And if there are further questions about that, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Any other questions, comments?
I don't dare, there's lawyers here.
No. Yeah.
I think the city did a good job at trying to mitigate as much as they could with the legal foundation there is currently in the ambiguity within it. And so I think they did a good job of trying to do it. And we applaud that, because that's half the battle that we wanted was those definitions within there. And so I think we'll continue to monitor, and city legal's on it as well,
Yeah.
as Ms. Rosenbro's described, so we'll see how it comes
Yeah,
up next.
keep it going. Right. One question I did have, not related to this, but just any of the feedback, is for Executive Director McDermott. Have we heard anything back from Chief Medina about any of our responses or letters to him?
So there's one outstanding, and that is not due until September 8th.
Oh.
So
Okay, no,
by
I-
next board meeting, you should have something.
Perfect, awesome. Yeah, I just remembered that, and so I was like, oh, I should probably ask. All right, any other questions around policies, AP responses? All right, so let's move on to the next order of business, which is other business. Any members, anybody have any other business? One thing I do want to add around other business is Member Calderon and I are in that working group for the review and possible modifications for the ordinance. So Member Calderon and I will probably start meeting with other people from CPOA, more out in the public. So if you see us, that is what we're doing. We're working in the working group. So just as wanted to let this to be more informational and formality to let you guys know what we're doing, to be transparent. So any questions? And like, once we find stuff out, we'll of course bring it back to you, but just so you guys know, we'll be meeting outside. Yes. Awesome. Any other questions, comments? No? So with that, we will adjourn here pretty, yeah, I was gonna get to that. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on Thursday, September 11th, here at 5 p.m. in the, yes, sorry.
My name is Mervyn Tobin. You're gonna have to.
Yeah, if you want to speak, just so we can all hear you with the microphone.
Inquire.
Yeah.
Ask it.
Katrina, can you, what they're going to be asking, or can you ask him what he's going to be? All right, sir.
Yes.
Just to hear, what are you going to be inquiring about out of curiosity?
This is about policy, Albuquerque policy.
Okay.
I got to first say, I apologize for being late. I'm on the K and public comment.
Okay.
Yeah, this is public comment.
So, okay, let me, because we've already passed the public comment part of the agenda, so I just want to check with legal if we can go back to it, if we need to wait till next.
Mr. Chair, you're correct. That part of the agenda has already passed. My recommendation is it's a slippery slope if you want to start creating a precedent where you can just reopen it at any time. I understand the citizen situation. The recommendation perhaps would be that he submit public comments in writing and that they can be brought up in the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you, counsel. So, sir, based upon the legal counsel, my recommendation is that you submit your comments in writing to the CPOA. Ms. Barilla, I think, can you help make sure he has the right email address to submit those comments?
Yes, I will definitely.
Yeah, the mics are being funky, so yeah, off and on. Do it again. Turn it off and turn it back on.
All right.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, we're back on. Yes, I'll make sure that the citizen has the contact information.
Yeah, and then, sir, if you do want, the next board meeting will be, as I was saying, will be held September 11th. So we try to start promptly at 5, so if you can try to get here a little bit before 5, and then that way, if you do want to have to speak, we have that opportunity.
How do I get on the agenda?
You just have to write down and actually sign up for public comments on the 11th, or you can write a written comment. And Ms. Barilla will help give you that information.
To get on the agenda?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do thank you for wanting to speak in the participation. So I do thank you, but I just, from council, we just don't want to set up precedents. So thank you for your time.
I understand. Thank you.
So yes, as I was saying, the next regularly scheduled meeting will be September 11th here in the Great Ghost Chambers at 5 p.m. With that, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Ms. Barilla, can I get a roll call vote?
Member Bolianitz?
Approved.
Member Budenaro?
Approved.
Member Calderon?
Approved.
Member Weimark?
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Barilla, and everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Can you unplug me?